Buffalo loses its first game of the season against number 19 ranked Wisconsin 38-17. There was some good and some bad. Find out my thoughts coming up. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Sports Talk Buffalo. The Bulls started their season on the road against number 19 ranked Wisconsin Badgers, and overall, if you are a UB fan, it was not a poor showing. However, as the game moved forward, you could tell, defensively anyway, that the University at Buffalo football team was desperately overmatched in terms of the trenches. Buffalo got beat up defensively all game long on the ground as the depth and talent of Wisconsin, especially in the trenches on defense, started to show as the game progressed. This is going to lead us into the first of a few different bad things that I noticed while watching this UB Bulls team in their first game of the 2023 season. The Bulls allowed the Wisconsin Badgers to rumble over them with more than 300 yards of rushing offense, 314 yards to be exact, as they allowed two separate 100-yard rushers in Allen, who rushed for 141 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Malusi, who broke off a monstrous 89-yard run, and he finished with 157 yards and also 2 touchdowns. The Bulls, outside of a few times where they were able to get into the backfield, which we will talk about in a few minutes, were basically getting gashed on the ground time and again, almost all game long, but especially in the second half, as the big fellas up front just couldn't hold the line for the University at Buffalo. Now we jump into another negative, and that was the Bulls' inability to finish on the opportunities that they were allowed in this game. They had to capitalize on every opportunity that Wisconsin gave them in order to overcome the talent gap between these two teams. The Buffalo Bulls were lucky to escape in the second quarter on a long, what would have been a TD pass that was dropped by the Wisconsin wide receiver, and then they were gifted a interception on what could have been a pick six, but the cornerback, trying to make a move on the quarterback, slips and falls down on the 15-yard line, and the Bulls, to compound that problem, were then unable to not only get not a touchdown, were not able to get any points at all on that drive. Those are the kind of things that in a game like this, you must capitalize on if you are the less talented team in this game. The Bulls also had 2 separate drives that were completely killed by penalties. One penalty was on Gabe Wallace, and if you try to look at it objectively, it was a tick after the play was over. However, in most games, they let that play go as Gabe Wallace is simply finishing a block. That went from what would have been a 3rd and 3 and made it a 3rd and 18, which completely stalled out that drive. On that play, they looked very good offensively, and that play completely stalled them. And then there was another play later in the game. The game was kind of already in hand. However, you don't want to see penalties like this stall drives, as Marlon Johnson negates a very big play by McMillan down the right sideline as he comes with a blindside block. Just a stupid penalty to take, as McMillan looked like he was already about to start to run out of bounds. Those are things that you absolutely cannot have if you intend on being a better team this year than you were last year. And lastly, the last thing that I'm going to talk about in terms of negatives, there were a few more negatives, but the last thing that I'm going to talk about in terms of negatives was their third and fourth down conversion rate was absolutely putrid. It was incredibly bad. I don't even have words for it. Putrid is probably the best word for it, as a mix between poor execution on good play calls and really, really suspect play calling throughout the game. Saw Buffalo go just 2 of 15 on third downs and 1 of 4 on fourth downs, including 2 head-scratching quarterback sneaks on a 4th and 1. It didn't work the first time early in the game, and then Buffalo thought to themselves, why not try it again? And got completely stonewalled again. The Bulls don't have a big quarterback. Cole Snyder is only 6'2" and about 205 pounds, maybe 210 pounds. He is not a big guy, and you are also playing a team in Wisconsin that has a very good defense. They stonewalled you once already. When you're driving, why would you try the quick count and then run it right? Like, that's not who you are. That's not who the Bulls are built for. And you're going to get stopped every time, especially against a really good Power 5 team like Wisconsin. And it was head-scratching that they tried it multiple times. And the Bulls had what was described in the offseason as supposed to be a explosive offense. Not a whole lot of explosion in this game from UB outside of one 51-yard play down the right sideline early in the game, which happened to be one of their 2 third down conversions, and it ended up in the end zone eventually on that same drive. Now, before we go any further, I want to remind you guys to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you guys never miss a video. I talk Bills, Sabres, and the University at Buffalo men's basketball and football teams right here on this page. And also remember to check out some cool merch. The links will be in the description below. Now, let's talk about a few of the positives that you can take away from this game if you are a UB Bulls fan. The first being that Buffalo's secondary and pass defense overall largely played a very, very good game pretty much all game long, holding the Badgers to just 189 yards passing on 31 attempts, which equates to just 6.1 yards per attempt. They forced Tanner Mordecai, hopefully I pronounced that right, they forced Tanner Mordecai to basically check the ball down all game long. They swarmed the ball and were able to make tackles time and again in this game. The Bulls also were able to force 2 turnovers, helping them win the turnover battle with 2 interceptions. One by Grant, which I mentioned earlier, which he ended up slipping and falling, could have and should have probably been a pick 6. And the other by, surprise, surprise, Sean Dolak, who is one of the leaders of this team in the fourth quarter. He helps set up a touchdown for the University at Buffalo. The second positive was the Bulls' defense was able to get off the field in third down situations, allowing just 4 of 12 third downs to the Wisconsin Badgers, which is a very, very solid sign moving forward that when they have the ability to get themselves off the field, they will more times than not be able to put the ball back in the hands of the offense. They forced 5 punts and had 2 turnovers in this game for UB's defense. I know Wisconsin still scored 38 points. However, the Bulls defense, outside of getting gashed on the ground on a couple of very, very big runs, was fairly solid in this game. They also were able to get into the backfield a few times, getting 5 tackles for loss and 1 sack against this very good Wisconsin team. Lastly, I want to commend Buffalo's offensive line, who played a very solid game against a very difficult Power 5 opponent, as both Cook and Washington, both of their running backs, were able to average over 4 yards per carry in this one. However, the big thing in this game was that they allowed 0 sacks to a team that averaged nearly 2.5 sacks per game last season. Overall, an expected outcome if you were a University at Buffalo football fan, as UB has beaten just one ranked opponent in school history, and it was another Mid-American Conference team. However, there are lots to build on moving forward if you are a Bills or Bulls fan. My offensive player of this game is going to be Cole Harity, wide receiver Cole Harity, as he reeled in a team-high 5 receptions for just 47 yards. However, he was able to score the 2 passing touchdowns from Cole Snyder on 2 fantastic routes in the end zone and made great catches on both of those throws. And my defensive player of the game is, of course, Sean Dolak, who was around the ball all game long, as he always is, registering 8 tackles, 7 of which were solo, 1 tackle for loss, and an INT. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. What else should the Bulls work on heading into next game? What else can they build upon? What other positives are there heading into this next game against FCS opponent in Fordham, where the Bulls will take them on at UB Stadium? That's going to do it for this episode, guys. I want to remind you guys to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you guys never miss a video. And as always, have a fantastic week.